Love in the Ton has always been dramatic, but what if Season 5 gives us a romance so scandalous that even Lady Whistledown would hesitate before putting ink to paper? Bridgerton Season 5 is not just another love story. It is about to break every polite rule, every whispered expectation, and every carefully guarded tradition of high society. And at the center of it all, Francesca Bridgerton. Yes, the quiet one, the composed one, the one who always seemed a little too calm while chaos danced around her. But if Season 4 taught us anything, it is that the quietest hearts often carry the loudest storms. Let us be honest. Season the 4th of May have belonged to Benedict and Sophie's fairy tale ending. But beneath all that wedding sparkle and emotional speeches, another story was quietly taking shape. A story built on grief, on stolen glances, on hands held just a second too long. And that story belongs to Francesca and Michaela. We all saw it. Or did we try not to see it? John's heartbreaking death changed everything. Francesca's world collapsed in a way that felt painfully real. And in the middle of that devastation, who was there? Michaela. Not just as a cousin offering polite condolences, not just as a family member fulfilling a duty. She was there in a way that felt deeper, softer, more intimate, and honestly, a little too intense to ignore. When Michaela held Francesca's hand, that was not just comfort, that was electricity, and you could feel it through the screen. But here is where things get complicated, because this is Bridgerton, this is the Ton, and two women falling in love in this society. That is not just gossip, that is a full-blown scandal ready to explode. The kind of scandal that could tear reputations apart, the kind that forces families to choose between love and legacy. So why would the show even go there? Because the clues are everywhere. Francesca trying to find Michaela a suitor, only to realize she is not interested in men. The way Michaela looked at her when she thought no one was watching. The tension in their final conversation. Francesca asking her not to leave London, and Michaela agreeing, but still leaving anyway. Why leave if you promise to stay? Because sometimes staying is more dangerous than leaving. Michaela's departure did not feel like rejection. It felt like fear. Fear of feelings that are growing too fast. Fear of dishonoring John's memory. Fear of wanting something society will never allow. And maybe, just maybe, fear of how deeply she already cares. And Francesca? Do not underestimate her. She may seem reserved, but she is observant. She noticed Michaela's reactions. She understood the unspoken words. And when someone as emotionally careful as Francesca starts to question her own heart, that means something powerful is happening. Season 5 is not just about romance, it is about identity, about courage, about choosing happiness even when the world tells you that happiness is forbidden. But here is the real question. Will Francesca fight for Michaela? Or will she convince herself that loving her is a betrayal she can never allow? Because if Season 5 truly centers on them, we are about to witness the most dangerous love story the Ton has ever seen. And that is only the beginning. And if you thought the emotional tension was already unbearable, Season 5 is about to turn that quiet longing into something far more explosive. Because here is the truth no one in the Ton is ready to admit. Francesca is not just grieving her husband anymore. She is awakening. And that is far more dangerous. Grief is complicated in the Bridgerton universe. It does not simply disappear. It transforms. It reshapes people. We saw it with Violet after Edmund. We saw how love can survive loss, but it also changes the heart forever. And now Francesca is standing at that same crossroads. The difference? Violet's second chance at love was socially acceptable. Francesca's may not be. After John's death, society expects Francesca to mourn quietly, dress in darker shades, attend fewer balls, and eventually, when the time feels appropriate, remarry a respectable gentleman. That is the script, that is the expectation, that is the safe path. But does Francesca look like someone who wants safe anymore? Season 4 planted something subtle but powerful. Francesca was never portrayed as dramatic or impulsive. Her emotions run deep but calm, like still water hiding strong currents underneath. And when Michaela entered that emotional space, she did not force her way in, she simply stood there, steady, understanding, patient. That kind of connection does not disappear just because one person leaves London. In fact, distance might make it worse. Michaela leaving felt like an attempt to control something that was already out of control. Let us think about that final moment again. Francesca asking her not to go, Michaela agreeing, and them leaving anyway. That is not indifference. That is someone running from feelings that are growing faster than she can manage, because staying would have meant confronting them, and confronting them would have meant admitting the truth. And what is that truth? That somewhere between shared grief and quiet conversations, they crossed a line neither of them expected. Season 5 will most likely explore that silence, the letters that may or may not be written, the thoughts that refuse to stay buried. Francesca, trying to continue her life while constantly wondering where Michaela is, what she is thinking, whether she misses her too. Because let us be honest, Bridgerton loves slow burns. It loves emotional tension stretched so tight that even a single glance feels like a confession. But here is where it gets even more intense. The Ton watches everything, every look, every dance, every choice. If Francesca begins to show even the slightest sign of longing for Michaela, people will talk, and not kindly. Rumors in this society do not whisper, they roar. And once Lady Whistledown gets hold of something like this, it will not remain private for long. Which brings us to another huge question. Who is writing now? The Season 4 finale shocked everyone with a new Whistledown issue appearing. Penelope herself looked stunned. That means someone new has picked up the pen. And if Season 5 focuses on a forbidden love that could shake the Ton, imagine the power that anonymous voice will hold. One carefully written column could either protect Francesca or destroy her reputation completely. And what about the Bridgerton family? Anthony has always been fiercely protective. Violet believes in love above all else, but even she understands the weight of society's judgment. Eloise, of course, has always challenged social rules, but even rebellion feels different when it becomes personal. If Francesca confesses her feelings, will her family stand beside her publicly, or will they beg her to protect the family name? This is where Season 5 could truly break the Ton, not just because of scandal, but because of choice. Love versus legacy, happiness versus reputation, truth versus tradition. And let us not forget the emotional layer that makes this even more complicated. John's memory. Francesca loved him. That love was real. It was gentle and steady. So how does she allow herself to love again? And not just love again, but love differently. Will she feel guilt every time her heart beats faster around Michaela? Will she question whether she is betraying the man she lost? That inner conflict alone could carry an entire season. But the biggest shift will be Francesca herself. We may see her transform from the quiet observer into someone bold enough to challenge the very society that raised her. And if that happens, the Ton will not know what hit it. Because imagine this, a public moment, a dance, a declaration, a refusal to deny what everyone can already see. If Francesca decides she will not hide, then no amount of gossip will. And just when you think the emotional chaos could not possibly grow any bigger, Season 5 quietly sets the stage for something even more dramatic, the ripple effect. Because Francesca and Michaela's story will not exist in isolation. In the world of Bridgerton, one love story always shakes the entire family tree. Let us start with Violet. Violet Bridgerton believes in love more than anyone. She has always told her children to marry for passion, for connection, for that undeniable spark. But here is the real test. Does she believe in love when it challenges every rule she has lived by? Violet's own journey in Season 4 showed us something important. She rediscovered excitement. She allowed herself to feel alive again without immediately rushing into marriage. That tells us she understands that love is not always simple or traditional. But supporting a widowed daughter falling for another woman? That is not just unconventional, that is revolutionary in their society. And if Violet chooses to stand beside Francesca publicly, that will send a powerful message to the Ton. It would mean that the Bridgertons are willing to risk whispers, invitations withdrawn, alliances broken. It would mean choosing authenticity over approval. But can Violet truly handle watching her daughter face that kind of scrutiny? Then there is Anthony. Anthony is practical, protective. He carries the weight of the family name on his shoulders like armor. For him, reputation is not just pride, it is survival. One scandal can affect business deals, marriages, social standing. So imagine the moment he realizes that Francesca's happiness could threaten all of that. Will he argue? Will he try to convince her to reconsider? Or will he surprise everyone by remembering that he once defied society for love himself? Because let us not forget, Anthony did not choose the safe path either. And Eloise? Oh, Eloise will be fascinating in Season 5. she has always questioned society's rules. She has criticized marriage as a transaction, mocked expectations, and dreamed of independence. But now the rebellion is personal. Supporting Francesca would align perfectly with everything Eloise claims to believe. Yet there is something complicated here too. Eloise knows what it feels like to be judged, to be talked about, to be misunderstood. She may encourage Francesca, but she also understands how painful that spotlight can be. And what if Eloise's own romantic arc begins quietly in the background? Some believe her letters to Sir Philip Crane could begin in season 5. Others still hold on to hope for Theo. But imagine the contrast. While Francesca fights a forbidden love publicly, Eloise may be exploring something more private and intellectual. Two sisters redefining love in completely different ways. That parallel alone could make season 5 emotionally layered and unpredictable. Now let us talk about the Ton itself. The Ton thrives on tradition, on predictable courtships, on acceptable scandals that can be forgiven with the right marriage. But Francesca and Michaela's story cannot be fixed with a wedding announcement. It cannot be silenced with a polite engagement. It challenges the very structure of their world, and that means resistance will be fierce. Whispers at balls, invitations mysteriously not arriving, cold stares across drawing rooms, the subtle cruelty of exclusion. Season 5 could show us how society punishes what it does not understand, and that is where the tension becomes almost unbearable. Because this is not just about romance, it is about courage. But here is another layer we cannot ignore. The new Lady Whistledown. Someone has taken up the pen. Someone is watching. Someone is ready to shape the narrative. If that anonymous voice chooses to expose Francesca and Michaela. And now we come to the question that is driving everyone slightly insane. When are we actually getting season 5? And what exactly has already been revealed? Because let us be honest, the wait between Bridgerton's seasons feels longer than any slow burn romance the show has ever given us. And just when we think we cannot possibly survive another year without the Ton's drama, small updates begin to surface. Filming is officially set to begin in spring 2006. That is confirmed, which means production wheels are already turning behind the scenes. Costumes are being sketched, scripts are being finalized, and somewhere, the writers are carefully shaping what might become the most daring love story this series has ever attempted. Now, if we look at the pattern of previous seasons, the timeline gives us a realistic window. With filming starting in 2026, post-production, editing, scoring, and promotion would naturally push the release into late 2027. That is the safest estimate, the most logical guess. But could it arrive earlier? Possibly summer 2027 if everything moves smoothly. But this is Bridgerton. They take their time, they polish every detail, and honestly, would we want it rushed? But here's where things get interesting. The early promotional hints and subtle marketing language feel different this time. The tone surrounding season 5 already feels heavier, more daring. Words like transformative, unexpected, and society shifting have been quietly associated with the upcoming storyline. That does not sound like a typical courtship filled with garden walks and mild misunderstandings. That sounds like disruption. And then there is the so-called trailer tease. No, not a full trailer yet, but small glimpses. Cast interviews that carefully avoid spoilers, but say just enough to ignite speculation. When asked about season 5, cast members have smiled in that knowing way. The kind of smile that says, "You are not ready." That alone should make us nervous. Because if Francesca and Michaela truly take center stage, the marketing will have to walk a careful line. This is not just a romantic arc. It is representation. It is risk. It is evolution. For a show that built its identity around traditional Regency courtship, and yet, Bridgerton has always been about challenging expectations beneath its glittering surface. Now let us talk about the emotional stakes in the trailer clues we might expect. If the first official trailer drops sometime in 2027, do not expect it to immediately confirm everything. It will likely show longing glances, close conversations, perhaps a dramatic return to London. The tension will be implied, not declared, because the real impact will come when the audience slowly realizes that this is not subtext anymore. This is the story. But beyond Francesca and Michaela, season 5 will continue weaving the rest of the Bridgerton world. Benedict and Sophie adjusting to married life, Violet embracing joy without apology, Eloise possibly beginning her own correspondence that could shape season 6, and Anthony trying once again to maintain control in a world that refuses to behave predictably. And then there is Lady Whistledown. The reveal of a new writer changes everything. If that voice decides to center Francesca's rumored attachment in her column, it could either ignite scandal or control the narrative before the Ton twists it into something cruel. The power of the pen has never been more dangerous. And imagine the season finale, a Whistledown issue that publicly reframes forbidden love as something beautiful instead of shameful. That would not just break the Ton, it would redefine it. But let us return to the biggest emotional question. Will Francesca and Michaela get their happy ending? Because Bridgerton promises love. It promises resolution. It promises that no matter how impossible things seem, love finds a way. But the road there may be more painful than anything we have seen before. They will question themselves. They will doubt each other. Society will push back. Family may hesitate. Guilt will linger. But if this show has taught us anything, it is that the greater the obstacle, the more powerful the love becomes. Season 5 is not just another chapter. It feels like a turning point. A moment where Bridgerton decides whether it will stay within the comfortable fantasy of tradition or step boldly into something more honest, more modern, and far more daring. And as we wait for that official release date announcement, as we refresh social media, analyze every casting update, and replay old interviews looking for hidden clues, one thing is certain. When Season 5 finally arrives, the Ton will never be the same. Because if Francesca chooses love over fear, if Michaela returns ready to fight, if the Bridgertons stand united against society's whispers, then this will not just be a romance, it will be a revolution. And the only question left is, are we truly ready to watch the Ton break apart for a love it was never prepared to understand?